What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. And wow, there is a lot going on here. Things are really heating up here all around the world, and America just seems to be the center of everything here. Check this out. You're not going to believe here. Apparently, China fired missiles near Taiwan in drills right after Nancy Pelosi's visit. Boy, they really are something, man. They're really testing the waters. It's just, here's the details, man. Why do they want to provoke something like this? They're really something, man. Yeah, so China deployed scores of planes and fired live missiles near Taiwan here today in its biggest ever drills in the Taiwan Strait, a day after U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made a solidarity trip to the self-ruled island. China's military confirmed multiple firings of conventional missiles in the waters off Taiwan as part of planned exercises in 6 zones set to run until noon on Sunday. It activated more than 100 planes, including fighter jets and bombers, and over 10 warships, state broadcasters on TV said. Taiwan's defense military said it scrambled jets to warn away 22 Chinese fighter aircraft that crossed the Taiwan Strait median line into its air defense zone, while Japan protested that 5 missiles appeared to land in its economic zone as well. Wow. A Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson said the U.S.-Taiwan collusion and provocation will only push Taiwan towards the abyss of disaster, bringing catastrophe to Taiwan compatriots. Responding to Chinese drills, President of Taiwan said that they would not provoke conflicts but would firmly defend its sovereignty and national security, saying that Taiwan will never be knocked down by challenges. We are calm and not impetus. We are rational and not provocative, but we will also be firm and not shirk. Taiwan said that 11 Chinese Dongfeng ballistic missiles have been fired into nearby waters, the first time since 1996. Taiwan said that the drills violated the United Nations rules, invading its space and threatening free air and sea navigation. It has been self-ruled since 1949. Yeah, so you got to kind of wonder, did House Speaker Nancy Pelosi provoke this just by merely going there? Yeah, it's unbelievable because even Republicans said, we've had multiple Republican senators that have gone there even this year, and all of a sudden China really took offense to this one for some God knows reason. And now, who knows what is this going to die down? China fires missiles literally the day after. There's something else, man. It's not really just like Russia. Speaking of Russia, speaking of Russia, here we go. Brittney Griner found guilty in a Russian drug trial, sentenced to 9 years in prison in Russia. And yeah, so she basically had hashish oil there, which is basically for vaping. It had THC in it. She's sentenced to 9 years in prison for that. 9 years. Which is unbelievable. By the way, she was prescribed, she had a prescription for this in Arizona. But in Russia, they gave her 9 years in prison for this. Now, here's the thing here is that the U.S. has already made a prisoner exchange swap proposal, but Russia wants to throw in very hardened criminals for an exchange. And this is the problem here going forward, is that is Russia going to continue to do this with Americans that go over to Russia, get them on very minimal charges and throw them in prison for 9, 10 years, and then want to get prisoner exchanges for the guy they want to, one of the guys they want to exchange for has the nickname the Merchant of Death, is who is an Victor Bout, a previous arms dealer, and they were going to exchange for a women's NBA star who had some THC oil on her. I'm going to exchange her for the guy called the Merchant of Death. Yeah. President Biden denounces Russia's 9-year sentence for Brittney Griner as unacceptable. It does seem like they're just, like I said, taking a small charge. Remember, she had a prescription from this from Arizona, where that type of stuff is legal. In fact, here on one of the U.S. Department of websites here, you can see here at the very top here, it says, do not travel. This was an advisory issued on July 19th. It says in big bold letters, Russia travel advisory. Do not travel and leave immediately if you're in Russia. This is on the United States Department of State and Bureau of Consular Affairs. So yeah, so that's the thing here, is the United States is literally warning Americans not to travel to Russia, because if you're there, or if you go there, they could detain you for anything and imprison you for many, many years for the smallest offense, and you could be there for the rest of your life or many years. So heed the warning on their websites. Meanwhile, Senator Bernie Sanders says that this Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 could be a missed opportunity. Take a listen. Here's what he has to say.
Reduction Act may be coming to the floor in the coming days. And there are some people who think this bill is worth supporting. There are others who think that it is not. But whatever your views on this bill may be, let us be clear. As currently written, this is an extremely modest piece of legislation that does virtually nothing to address the enormous crises that working families all across this country are facing today. This reconciliation bill falls far short of what the American people want, what they need, and what they are begging us to do. It is the only opportunity that we have to do something significant for the American people that requires only 50 votes and that cannot be filibustered. In other words, this is the opportunity, because on anything significant, we're not going to get 60 votes. So this, in my view, is a moment that should not be squandered. Mr. President, let us do what we too rarely do here in the Congress or in the corporate media, and that is take a hard look at the reality of what is going on in our country today. Very often we sit here and we argue about this, we argue about that, but we don't take a look at what's going on in America today, especially among working people and lower income people who do not have paid lobbyists here trying to get us to pass legislation to benefit them. People back home are just too busy working 50, 60 hours a week, trying to make it on Social Security, trying to deal with their student debt. They don't have the lobbyists here that the drug companies and the insurance companies and the fossil fuel industry has. What's going on in America today? For a start, in the richest country in the history of the world, half of our people live paycheck to paycheck. And because of inflation, a bad situation has been made worse. Millions of people today are wondering how they're going to pay their rent, how they're going to buy the food to feed their kids, how they're going to pay off their debt. That is what's going on for half of the people in our country. I know we don't talk about them. They have no representation here, no lobbyists, no nothing, but that is the reality. Does this reconciliation bill address their needs? Does it raise the minimum wage to a living wage? Or do we continue to allow so many workers to try to get by on 10, 12, 13 bucks an hour? Does this bill make it easier for workers who want to join a union to be able to do so, or they continue to be attacked by their employers, making it hard to form a union? No, this bill does nothing to address that reality. Mr. President, at a time when, tragically, this country has the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, does this bill extend the $300 a month per child tax credit that was so important to millions of families last year? Does it address that issue? Does it say that maybe there is something wrong when millions of children in this country are dealing with hunger and with other basic human needs? No, not a word in this bill addresses that. Mr. President, in my state of Vermont and around this country, families are paying on average about $15,000 a year for childcare, if they are lucky enough to find a slot. $15,000 a year. It's 1/3 of the salary of a family making $45,000. I don't know how people can afford childcare. And meanwhile, childcare workers earn horrifically low wages and poor benefits. At a time when we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth, does this bill address the dysfunctionality of our child care system? No, not a word. And again, this is a reconciliation bill where we only need 50 votes to make these changes. Mr. President, at a time when over 70 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, when we spend twice as much per capita on health care as the people of almost any other major country, while insurance companies make tens and tens of billions of dollars a year in profit, when 60 million people a year die because they can't afford to get to a doctor when they are sick because they're uninsured or underinsured, does this bill do anything to help us create a rational, cost-effective health care system which guarantees health care for all as a human right, something that every other major country on earth does? No, the bill does nothing to address the extraordinary health care crisis that we face. Mr. President, at a time when 45 million Americans are struggling to pay student debt, and when hundreds of thousands of bright young people every year are unable to fulfill their dreams, unable to get a higher education because they cannot afford the high cost of higher education in this country, does this bill do anything to make it easier for young people to get a higher education? No, guess not. Doesn't do a thing. Doesn't do a thing on student debt. Mr. President, 55% of senior citizens in our country are trying to survive on incomes of $25,000 a year or less, which is something hard for me to understand, really is. Think about being 80, 90 years of age, trying to make it on $25,000 a year. Maybe your spouse has died. I don't know how you do it, but more than half of the people in our country who are seniors are trying to do that. Many of these seniors cannot afford to go to a dentist. And in Vermont, and I suspect in Arizona as well, there are senior citizens walking around without teeth in their mouth or with teeth that are rotting. There are seniors all over this country who cannot communicate with their kids or grandchildren because they can't afford a hearing aid. They can't watch TV because they can't afford a decent pair of glasses. Is there anything in the currently written bill to expand Medicare to do what some 75, 80% of the American people think we should do, and that is expand Medicare to cover dental care for seniors, hearing aids, and eyeglasses? No, this bill doesn't touch that at all.
Yeah, so Bernie Sanders, remember, he's an independent. He's criticizing the Democrats there. Let me know your thoughts here. Remember, he's not a Democrat. He's obviously not a Republican. You let me know your thoughts here. And so, here's the problem. This is the problem here. A lot of people are going to be like, well, Jimmy, why don't they put more? Why don't they put this, that, and the other thing? All these things. The problem is, here's the problem. No Republicans are going to vote for this. First of all, that's the first line of defense here. Okay. Even when this bill is trillions of dollars more, no Republicans were going to vote for it. So Joe Manchin's cut it down. Kirsten Sinema is still even a wild card. So the bill's been slimmed down, slimmed down, slimmed down, slimmed down, and still no Republicans are going to vote for it. Republicans weren't going to vote for this to begin with. And again, I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm similar to Bernie Sanders. I'm not similar to Bernie Sanders. I mean, we're obviously, he's twice my age and stuff like that. But I'm similar to Bernie Sanders in that I just look at a bill, I look at an idea, I look at anything, and I just decide for it on myself. Okay. In this case, Bernie Sanders is criticizing the Democrats. Okay. He thinks the bill doesn't do enough for the American people. Okay. I like to do the same. Okay. So the Republicans were never going to vote for this. They won't get a single Republican vote. Not a single Republican will say, I like this, that, or the other thing, or the bill. Republicans just simply aren't going to vote for the bill because it's a Democratic bill. And personally, I don't agree with that type of thinking. Even if it was a Republican bill, I don't agree with that type of thinking either, because if you just listen to what Bernie Sanders is saying, and I think that any reasonable person that was listening to him, even if you're a Republican, if you're listening to him, listen to what he's saying. 50, 60% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Seniors need health care. They need to have Medicare cover dental, hearing, vision. If you're a senior, you need this type of coverage. When you just listen to the type of things that he's saying, this type of stuff makes sense. Why Republicans don't support these type of things is beyond me. A lot of this stuff kind of makes sense. If these were Republican ideas, then Republicans would back. It's just kind of weird, right? Our political system is weird, how it's like one party versus the other. This is the problem with today, especially when we're before an election. The problem is we have elections every 2 years. That's one of the serious problems in our society, right? Republicans versus Democrats, Democrats versus Republicans, and they're always kind of voting no on the other person's bills. It's a serious problem with our society, okay? So 50 people in the Senate are going to vote no, all the Republicans. So then you're down to 50 Democrats, and right now it's a 50-50 Senate. This doesn't happen very often, okay, that it's exactly 50-50, okay? Then you're left with only 50 Democrats, which is all the Democrats, including Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. So then you have these two wild cards, okay, Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, and they have to vote yes. So you have 48 other Democrats that are basically saying, okay, we're okay with passing all this stuff. We actually want to pass more, but we can't pass more because of Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Joe Manchin wasn't willing to pass more, so they had to go with only what he was able to pass for now. Okay, so they had to basically, as Democratic Representative Ro Khanna said, give him the pen. Kind of basically what happened. They gave him and Schumer sat down for a couple weeks in, behind closed doors and basically wrote a bill that he was okay with for the most part. Okay, so that's kind of what happened. So they gave him the pen figuratively speaking, and wrote a bill that he would be okay with voting. So now he's basically come out and said, I'm okay with this. It reduces the deficit, it reduces debt, he reduces inflation based on what he thinks. And remember, Joe Manchin's kind of a middle of the road kind of guy. So if he thinks it's going to reduce inflation, and again, he's not a far left Democrat. So, I mean, you can let me know your thoughts here. Remember, he's kind of an oil guy. We had an interview on him, 2 interviews on him recently. He thinks it's actually going to help the oil industry drilling. He also thinks it's going to help clean energy as well. It's kind of, and I kind of take that stance as well going forward. I think we kind of need to beef up both sides of the industry, right? We can't just go forward with just green energy, and we can't go forward with just oil. We have to we need both going forward. We can't rely on just oil because it's super expensive, right? And it's gone as soon as you drill it out of the ground. But we can't rely on just green energy either, because all of our cars, 98%, 95% of our cars are not electric. So you got to kind of just take a common sense, a realist approach to all this stuff. But the problem is you have no Republicans that are going to vote for this. You need all the Democrats that are going to vote for this in the Senate. That includes Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. If you don't get them to vote for it, you can't pass it. So that's kind of the problem with this large of a bill. Now, from the third stimulus check package, they were able to pass that. That bill kind of came when the pandemic was more on there, and they passed the third stimulus checks, the child tax credits, the rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, the utility assistance, and all that stuff here. But this bill they've been struggling with. They've been having more harder time with, and no Republicans voted for that one either. So you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here. And Congress is just kind of struggling. They're just having very few things where they come together. And Republicans and Democrats are not coming together very often. I mean, even the bill for the veterans, the Republicans switched their votes at the last second and voted no. And really, it kind of seems like only because it made the mainstream media and the controversy and the veterans were slamming the Republicans did they actually vote on it again and change their vote to vote yes, because the Republicans actually voted no on the bill and it failed. So this is the atmosphere of Congress right now, is that it's Democrat versus Republican, Republican versus Democrat, and a lot of bills are just failing because one party doesn't want to vote with the other party. And right now, because Democrats are in control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we're seeing a lot of Republicans that just don't want to vote yes on anything, especially before the midterm elections, because they just don't want to give any victories to the other party. You can let me know your thoughts here on this, but this is just basically what I'm seeing. So very few things are getting passed right now. So, but the reconciliation bill they can pass without any Republican votes, but they need Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, and they can only pass with what they put in there. So let me know your thoughts. But we're seeing all these states pass stimulus, and I just did a video on that here as well. So I'll link you to that here now. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel down below. Click the bell icon as well so you don't miss out on any new videos. You can click here to see the 20 different states that are passing state stimulus checks here as well. Tens of millions of people are getting them here. So click on that video next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.